Good evening, M3 family. Welcome to our new venture. We are calling this M3 Freedom Fund, your path to financial freedom. Okay, so in this presentation, I want to do a high level presentation for now. Okay, we will drill into this in a lot more detail, but on a minimum, I want to explain your risk, how it is managed, and what are the different protections that you have as an investor with us. Okay, and what is your return and what you can potentially expect investing with us. And so in this video, it's going to be a high level. Okay, so we have a pretty detailed PowerPoint slides that we will be talking about in subsequent video, and potentially we would do this live so that everybody can see and ask question. But in general, we have this greater agenda. Okay, greater agenda, but in general we want to explain a couple things in this video. Okay, we want to explain at least when you understand, when you leave this video, you understand what an escrow pool is and how you are protected, and on a minimum you can understand the different investment programs that we have. Okay, and then we probably don't want to, we're probably not going to go too much into the investment strategy, but we want to cover risk, investment, your investment risk. Okay, and we want to talk about this very special methodology where we manage risk and risk mitigation for you, which means it protects you even further. Okay, and then we may skim on this a little bit in terms of at a very high level. Okay, at a very high level, and then the rest we won't cover until later on in further videos, and we'll drill down on the details. Okay, so let's move on to how all of this works. Okay, how all of this works. Okay, so the goal, how it works, we would cover the goal of M3 Freedom Fund and the ultimate goal, which is financial freedom. Okay, so let me bring up another slide and we can talk about how it all starts and how it all works. Okay, so in so from your perspective, we were going to go through all of the flows in terms of how you invest and how it all works. Okay, so from an investor's perspective, and that is all of our future investors. Let's say in this example, we are making an example of $10,000 invested. Okay, so you invest in the Freedom Fund, M3 Freedom Fund, $10,000. Immediately, we take 5,000, which is 50% of that. We put that into an escrow. Okay, and immediately after that, we give you a piece of paperwork or a documentation or a binding contract that says you are a limited partner which have 5K asset in this escrow. And then that is this entire escrow right here. This entire escrow, it is administered by an external source. Okay, this external source is generally a law firm. Okay, so what are they administering? I mean, what are they exactly doing for for us, for you, and why is it important? Okay, let me bring this slide on and show you a couple of. Okay, so that escrow, just remember that escrow. Okay, so like I mentioned, that escrow is administered by a law firm, an escrow agent. Okay, that money is going to be deposit, and it gets, we buy a UST bill, which is a 13 weeks maturity date. Okay, now let's talk about who can withdraw from this escrow. Who can withdraw from this escrow? So we call these people signees. Okay, so the people who can withdraw from the escrow are signee. Number one, M3FF, that's M3 Freedom Fund. Number two, the largest holder in that fund. Number three, the second largest holder in that fund. Okay, so anytime we take money out from the escrow, there's got to be three signers. Okay, why is it designed that it is three signers, right? And two of them are our largest holder, because if we were to appoint people to sign, I can have my brother, my sister as signees, right? And then when that escrow grows to be $100 million, all three of us sign and we run away with that $100 million, right? So why is it the largest holder, right? In this case, the way we designed it is that because that has some randomness where we can't influence who's the largest, who's the second largest, right? So it's all random. So therefore, we cannot collude with each other and steal everybody's money and run. Does that make sense? Okay. So there is also two people that are on standby, right? Two people that are on standby. Who are these people and why are they important? They are also, limited partner. They are the third largest holder and fourth largest holder. Why are they on standby? They are on standby because in case something happens to this guy or one of these guys, right? And we always need three signees, right? So in case one of them dies or they just totally disappear, and we need to take money out from that escrow to pay people on a quarterly basis, right? The money doesn't get stuck there. Does that make sense? Your money, that is. Okay, so we've kind of discussed the quarterly withdrawal, and we discussed to take money out of this escrow, it requires three signees. Okay, and we've defined them up here already. Now, who deposit money into this escrow? Okay, so we talked about money being pulled out. That means I can't even pull out money in there by myself. Even two people, you can't even pull money out there. And the law firm, they can't pull money out there, okay, from there. All right. So who deposits money into this escrow? So the people that deposit money into this escrow is you at the beginning, right? Remember, the 50% of your money goes into this escrow, right? So, and M3 Freedom Fund, LLC, will be depositing money into this escrow, and we'll explain that in subsequent video. And this escrow pool will be insured, right? It will be insured. Okay, so let's continue on with okay, so now that we understand how this escrow pool works, right? We understand who can deposit and who can withdraw, right? So, and who administers this escrow pool? Okay, we don't administer this escrow pool. we have a law firm that is the escrow agent. It's a law firm. So what do they administer? So when we're ready every quarter, every 3 months, we're going to withdraw and pay everybody, right? We're going to withdraw and pay you. For example, you want to get money out. So every quarterly, the three signer get together, the signees, right? And they sign a document that says, okay, we're ready to withdraw money to pay this person, you, right? And then we submit it to these guys, and they make sure that everything is legal. We are not, let's say, this guy only has $10,000, but he's trying to withdraw 100,000, right? So they're gonna reject that right away. Does that make sense? So that's compliance and the administrator's role. Okay. So essentially, what is that doing? It's actually protecting you as an investor, right? On a minimum 50% of your asset. Okay. So let's continue with this flow. So first thing we do is we put it into escrow, limited partnership, right? And it is administered by an legal entity and attorney's office outside of us. Okay, so the other 50% of your money, in this case, example, we're doing a 10K, so 50% of that is 5K. So we fund into the trading pool. Okay, so what are we doing with that trading pool? That trading pool is executing proprietary trading strategy like M3 Core, LV, so on and so forth, right? It's executing our M3 proprietary trading strategy, and it is investing in these instruments or markets, futures, large cap, none of this small cap stuff, right? Very lower risk type investing, right? And index funds, and we will be using option as well. So in this investment, we are expecting to return 20% or more back to you as an investor, okay? So that is how we are making money to return back to you, okay, as an investor. Now, this trading pool right here, this trading pool is quite important, right? Every time we make money on a weekly basis, weekly profits, we are channeling it through this thing we call risk mitigation. What is this? This is just basically a transfer of money, profits, weekly profits gets transferred into this escrow. Okay, so if you look at this at the beginning, your ultimate risk is 50%, right? And that, what is that? That is, if I die all of a sudden, or some very catastrophic situation happens and I die, or I don't want to wish that upon myself, on a minimum you have your 50% here, right? Does that make sense? And as we are making money from the market on a weekly basis, we are going to put portions of that into this escrow. So we have projected that in 30 weeks, we will meet, get you into a position of total risk free. You have total risk free already, but technically in 30 weeks you will have total risk free, right? Because what happens is, if we deposit, let's say, for example, we use the 1% rule, okay? And let's say this pool has $100,000. Okay, so 1% of that is about $1,000 a day. So let's say in a week we do 1% for 5 days, that's $5,000, right? We would take half of that, 50% of that money, which is 2,500, right? We would deposit into this escrow, right? So your risk, like ultimate risk, is reduced every week, right? So it could come down to 49%, 48%, 47%, right? And we project that it's going to take us about 30 weeks based on some very conservative trading to put back 100% of everybody's investment, right? And plus the 20% in 30 weeks. Does everybody understand that and see that, right? Because we will be channeling money into there. And that is one of the way we provide risk management or risk mitigation to you. The other way we provide risk mitigation to you is that M3FF provides liquidity, which means that, what does that mean exactly? We secure your 50% here. Okay? We secure your 50%. So let's say on a week that we're losing money, we would fund this account to regain that money. Does that make sense? So this is the other protection, is M3FF having secure that trading account with our own capital, okay? And I just wanted to mention one other thing, that M3FF will be a member of the exchange, okay? We will be applying and getting membership of the exchange, which mainly allows us cheaper commission, like by 40%, an additional 40% commission. And we will be a what they call a commodity pool operator and a commodity trade advisor, okay? And those designation is compliance. We have to be in compliance with this government governing body. It is called CTFC compliance, right? So what is their job, these guys? They do regular audits, right? They audit us regularly to make sure that everything we're doing here is legit, legal, and we're not negative 100,000, right? Let's say, right? And we're telling all of our customer, hey guys, this fund is up 200K, right? So they come in and they audit all of that information, or they audit things like, we're telling you we're investing in futures, large cap, but actually we are buying crypto, right? So, things like that, right? We are governed by that governing body. And also, part of this governing body is that they require us to produce profit and loss reporting to them on a monthly basis. So everything is open to the public once we are in this fund, right? So all of you as an investor, you will see that information because it's audited, it is reporting that we have to provide, and it's public information. And also, this part of this compliance is that we have to be FPI background check. Okay, so they want to make sure that we are not some fraudulent people that's just gonna fraud people and take all the money in this escrow and run. Does that make sense? We can't do that anyways, right? Because remember this guy right here, it requires 3 signees, right? So even if I want to take money, I can't. Okay? All right. So in return, as we are trading this account, if it returns more, let's say it returns 50%, right, for the year. Well, how do we make money? We make money because we get to keep 30% of that, right? And then in return, we give you 20%, right? So I'm giving you, like the straight up information basically, right? So, and that's how we are able to guarantee your 20% on a yearly basis. Does that make sense? Now, so that is kind of the um, general high level review of our fund. Okay, and we there will be four different types of investment that you can do with our fund. Okay, number one, so these are the different investment programs. So we have this one investment. This is we have actually have four. Okay, each four of these investment have different risk. Okay, risk and return basically. Okay, so we have a fund that we are going to be calling it the Market Alpha Plus 3. What is that fund? That fund you guarantee you 3% alpha. What does that mean? That means that it's using the S&P 500 index as a benchmark. So if the S&P 500 returns 15% in 2025, you as an M3FF investor gets 18%. Okay? If the S&P 500 returns negative 15% in 2025, M3FF investor gets a positive 3%. Okay? And then you are protected by the escrow. Remember the escrow protection, right? And the minimum requirement to invest there is $5,000. Now, this actually, I have a note here that beats the index annuity program, okay? Because that index annuity program, on a year when the S&P is negative, you get 0%. On a year when the S&P returns 15, you get 15%. Okay, so it beats the annuities hands down, and we are the guarantor of this fund. Okay, now, so this is fund number two. Okay, this is fund number two. This fund right here, we call it the helicopter fund. Why are we calling it the helicopter fund? Because back in the COVID day, they were giving out free money. So, the term is that they're throwing free money from the helicopter down to everybody. So this name is fits pretty well to me. So we're calling it the helicopter fund, right? So this fund right here guarantees you what? 20% yearly. Okay, we are the guarantor, M3 Freedom Fund. Okay, the minimum investment in here is $5,000. Now I put a note here, subject to adjust down. Okay, why is that? Because when we are offering this in the future, when we are famous, right, we are not going to be offering this 20%, free money practically, and with a lot of protection like escrow protection, as you saw earlier. Okay, so in the future, because we are new, and any of the investor that's going to invest with us at our new stage get a little bit better of a deal, right? So moving on to the next. So that is fund number two. Now we're going to go to fund number three. Okay, so this fund number three, we call it the Magnum Opus Fund. Okay, so what is that? That is a zero guarantee. We don't guarantee anything. There's no guarantee. but in return, that is the highest return fund. The goal for that fund is to produce the highest return, okay? But there's no guarantee. So like any game of risk, higher risk, higher return. Potentially, we are aiming for 300+% per year, okay? And I want to make sure you potentially can have 100% of your capital loss, okay? You have no escrow protection, and your minimum investment is $30,000, okay? And we take a 2% management fee, okay? And if we made money, let's say we made money for you, let's say we made $100,000 for you, okay? It's going to be a split profit, meaning you will get $60,000. $40,000 is our split, okay? And this fund, I'm for the time being gonna only accept 38 seats, okay? 38 seats. When it's full, I'm just gonna close this fund. All right. So now, so this is a high risk, high reward, right? The risk is potentially losing 100% of your capital, right? Because I'm not M3FF, we're not guaranteeing anything in here, right? So this is how most fund work, right? Most hedge fund works. There's nobody guarantees you anything in this business. I promise you that, okay? And later on, when we do some comparison, you'll see, okay? And then we have this fund number 4. We call it the Robinhood Fund. So this Robinhood Fund is guaranteed to you as an investor 10% yearly. There is no minimum, okay? So you can contribute to this fund monthly or weekly contribution. You know, let's say somebody decides that, okay, I'm going to contribute $50 a week to this fund, okay? 12 months is the maturity, and then you are protected by the escrow pool. Okay, so after 12 months, let's say, let's call this $5,000. You invested $5,000 in 12 months. You get a 10% of that, which equates to $500 return. Does that make sense? Okay, and you know, this fund, you don't have to put in a lot of money down. You put a small amount of money down monthly, and you get a return on that. Okay, so that is called the Robinhood Fund. Now, sorry, I'm using this new pen, so it's really tricky. It's not that fluent. Okay, so anyhow, so we kind of cover risk mitigation. We won't cover why choose us. We won't cover any projection here, but actually we will be covering some projection. Let's go through that and kind of talk about that. Okay, so the idea is that the goal of all of this is that we want you to invest in the long term, right? So we've basically have some projections here for you, is that if you were to invest for 15 years with us, okay, and your initial investment of $10,000, and we are guaranteeing you the 20% annually for 15 years, and every year you invest the same amount, another $10,000 that you put in. By the year number 15, this is what you should be expecting as your 15-year return. Okay? All right. Now, that is compounding at 20%. Now, we have a program where we call bonus rewarding our client. We'll spell that out, and basically we will be able to give you a extra 5% return, which is 25%. Okay, so the way that works is that I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but I'm just going to show you some numbers, the big difference in terms of numbers, right? So if you were to just get the 20% in 15 years, this is your expectation. Now, if you were to get a 25% in 15 years, this is your expectation. Now, if we do the math, it is nearly double this amount, yes? It is nearly double that amount, okay? So everybody can get 25%, but we'll talk about that in subsequent video of how you are achieving that 25%, okay? So I hope this answers some of the questions so far. Before I go, I want to kind of talk about something else. Here, I want to give you some comparison because a lot of you who have not invested ever before, and you think what we are talking to you about is peanuts, okay? Let me explain this real quick. So this is a search that I did here on ChatGPT. Performance of top hedge fund. Okay, 6 name came up. Okay, first one, D.E. Shaw. Last year they returned 18% to their client. Okay, Citadel. Last year they returned 15% and 23 because they have multiple funds. Oh, this guy also has another fund that returns 36. Okay, Millennium Management. Last year they returned 15%. Okay, Schnodfield, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Last year they returned 19%. Discover Management, look at this, crazy, awesome, 52%. Right? Everybody is probably saying like, darn, M3FF is only giving us 20 to 25%, right? And this guy is returning 52%. Okay, that's fair. Walleye last year returned 17%. Okay? So if you look at these returns, these are top hedge funds, right? Top performing hedge fund. They're mostly under 20%. Okay, so let's look at their requirement to invest with them. Okay, let's kind of take a look to compare. D. Shaw. Okay, your minimum investment is $1 million. Okay, you have to be an accredited investor. What does an accredited investor mean? You have to have $1 million in asset excluding your primary resident, and you have to make more than $200,000 to $300,000 a year to even qualify to invest with them. Okay, that's what an accredited investor means. Now, okay, so most of you have never invested in long term. You might not know what all of that means. Okay, so just think about that requirement for a second. Next guy, Citadel. Okay, your minimum investment is $10 million to $50 million. Again, you have to be an accredited investor status. That's a real thing. Okay, so let's look at the next one, Millennium Management. Your minimum investment is $5 million to $25 million, and you have to be an accredited investor. Okay, so when you enter this investing game, you gotta have knowledge to compare, right? When you don't have knowledge to compare, anything you're talking about, it's all noise. Does that make sense? Anything you talk about is all noise, right? Here, the reality is the top hedge funds are producing less than 20%, and you don't have door. Tiếng Việt mình nó gọi là không có cửa để invest, you know what? Okay, because on a minimum, let's say this guy, 10 triệu. Okay, so remember this big guy right here, This big guy right here. He gave us a 52% return, right? Let's go. He is called Discover Capital, right? Discover Capital. Let's look at this. High minimum requirement, 5 million to 25 million to even invest with them. Obviously, accredited investor. You have to be qualified, right? And look at this. It is a private hedge fund, not open to the public. So even if you had all the money in the world and you want to get 52% for this particular year, you can't even do it because it's a private hedge fund. Okay? So we are comparing M3FF to these hedge funds, right? In terms of return, we are comparable. And I'm not even going to talk about none of these guys have any kind of guarantee. None. Zero. Okay? None. I promise you that. Okay? So when we're talking about the investment world, we have to compare things accurately. We can't just say, you know, oh, let me compare this fund to that fund. But there's, you know, the comparison's got to be what we call apple to apple. You can't compare an apple to a car. Does that make sense? All right. So that is basically the high level family. All right. So I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of questions and things like that. Feel free to um, reach out to me, but I will continue to drill down on make subsequent video in regards to this whole agenda, right? This whole agenda. So far, we've only covered maybe about 10%, right? We haven't really talked about the bonus. How are you getting a bonus reward as a client with us? And we haven't really talked about some project. Oh, we talked a little bit about projection, right? So there will be subsequent videos. I will cover all of these subject, all of these points, all of these points in a lot more detail. Okay, family? So I just want to get that out there. Please feel welcome to provide any feedback or ask any question or make any comments. Thank you very much, M3 family, for your time. Have a great weekend.